Good day, everybody. I hope you all had a fantastic Friday. Mine was pretty good. I got to sleep in a little bit, make up some of that ground that I may have lost over the last couple days. Really just over Wednesday, but then couldn't sleep as late as I wanted to because I had to go to the library at 1. So I had to get up like 11:30. No big deal though. So yeah, I feel like my chair's gone down slightly, so I'm gonna raise it up a little bit. So I had something in the evening to do. So my mom made some breakfast for dinner, some Brenner. So I had that, and then I went over to someone's house with some people from the drive and some people not from the drive, and we played kind of a tournament, kind of not a tournament, of Euchre. My main motivation to be there was the Mafia that would follow, which unfortunately went too long for me to get in the second game as much as I wanted to. It was after midnight. I had to go because I got to open the store tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So gotta make this quick because it's 12:30 now. So we played Euchre, and I wound up pairing up with someone who never played before, and he never played any cards before. He didn't even know what the suits were. So yeah, we lost the first match. We barely lost the second match because we had time to start another hand, and they wound up tying it up, or they wound up passing us again. We were in the lead until then. So that was that. And in the third hand, we tied with the people, and then they decided to just call it. It was kind of being run weird, and it was taking a long time. So they decided to just have the top 2 seeded teams at that point after 3 rounds face off for the winner. I don't know who the winner was. I do know that one of the top teams was the person who put this together, and the person who taught me and Heather how to play Euchre, and they were on the same team. So it wasn't a very balanced system with me playing with a brand new person and 2 experts playing together. Of course they're going to be on the top 2 teams. But I'm not worried about that. I didn't really have very much vested in the tournament at all. I just got to play a couple rounds of Euchre and then Mafia, which also took a little longer to get started than I would have liked. And we were like trying to bring people downstairs for Mafia, and then like, no, we'll start a game upstairs or whatever. And I ended up leaving right after the first game because it was, again, just a couple minutes after midnight, and I was like, I gotta get up and go early tomorrow, so I gotta leave. I was hoping it would end before midnight, and I was hoping that everyone would stop, but they didn't. So I left. The game that started upstairs was still going on. But this is what happened in that game, and then I will close the vlog out. So it's just one game of Mafia, so it won't take very long. Just relax. If you are bored with my Mafia talk, I'm sorry, but I really enjoy this game. I love dissecting it and just walking through it all back in my mind, and sharing it with you guys makes it fun too. So, sorry. So we started the game. There were 5 Mafia, the 4 roles, Framer, Silencer, Godfather, Yakuza, and then we had a 5th regular Mafia. I was the 5th regular Mafia. So I didn't have any special role, except my role kind of became leading the group because I was the most experienced one in the Mafia. There were 2 cops, there was a nurse, there was Batman, and there was a gunsmith. And what followed was pretty epic as far as the way things played out. It was amazing a few times. I couldn't believe I survived a lynching because I was Mafia, but I did. So what happened was we picked a pretty experienced and dangerous player to be killed first. And we chose to silence the person who wound up being Batman. Also the person that happens to be my boss. I play this movie, the owner. And the guy who hosts these things normally, but not this particular one. We didn't do it at his house, we did it somewhere else. Anyway, so we silenced him. We also framed him. And then, sure enough, the cops had checked him out and found him guilty. And one cop came forward with that information. We found out he's guilty, so we need to get rid of him. And we break from the normal rules, and we let him defend himself. When normally, if you're Silenced, you're silenced. If they accuse you, you can't say anything. You just sit there and you have to take it because you've been silenced. We let him break the silence to defend himself. He came up with a pretty good defense and survived the lynching. And I was really kicking myself for voting when I did vote, because I thought everyone was going to vote. And then it turned out the only people who voted, aside from one aside from the cops who were convinced because they checked them out, the cops convinced. So the cops and the mafia, all of the mafia, voted together to lynch him. But that's only 7 people, and we needed 8 to pull it off. So he survived, even though all of the mafia and cops tried together to get rid of him. So because he had said as much as he did, and because I knew we couldn't silence him in the next round, when we went to sleep, I tried to convince everyone to to kill him, basically, because he could be a threat in the rest of the game. Sometimes we let him go long, sometimes we don't. When we do, we usually regret it. But anyway, so what happened? We lynched... Who did we lynch? We didn't lynch anyone. We wanted to go into bed without lynching. So, again, that worked in the mafia's favor. So we went to bed, and this is where I almost got thrown under the bus. So I know someone had said something that made me think that they were the nurse. They'd asked a question about the nurse during the day. They'd also made a comment about it while we had our eyes closed. And so I'm like, why would he ask about the nurse unless he's the nurse? He's a fairly new player. He doesn't know what's going on necessarily. So I'm like, he's got to be the nurse. And one of the other mafia was in agreement with me. They're like, he's the nurse. Yeah, we realize he's the nurse. Turns out he wasn't the nurse. It also turned out that we were able to lynch him later on, but I'll get to that in a minute. Wow, I'm taking forever now that I'm talking about mafia. Just one game. So I'm trying to get them to kill Nathan, who came out as Batman. That was his defense, was I'm Batman, reluctantly. So I'm like, he's Batman, he's dangerous, he talks a lot, he's smart, he knows this game. We need to get rid of him for so many reasons right now. And we were all in agreement, except for one of us was convinced, like, no, we shouldn't do that. We should get rid of this person. And it's like, no, he's not a threat compared to this guy. He's a threat. I never got a chance to talk to her to explain that. Maybe I'll see her again. She seems to really like the game, so we'll probably see her around. At any rate, we finally got her to relent. But in the process, I was moving my arms around. I was like, we have to go with him. We can't go with him. He might be the nurse, you're right, but we can wait. He's not a threat. He's a threat because he's Batman. He can kill, and he can also say stuff for the town, and they'll believe him now that they know he's on their side. So we wind up killing him, and that worked. So what happened was, another reason to kill, we were going to I lost my train of thought. So we killed him. We were trying to get someone to silence the cop that round, but they decided not to. And we're like, all right, it doesn't really matter anyways, because we knew for a fact the cop was going to check out Nathan to confirm that he was in fact innocent. And the cop did check out Nathan, but Nathan was dead, so the cop wasted the turn. Another reason why we needed to kill Nathan right then was because she was going to check him. But then the person sitting right next to me pointed out she heard me moving a lot. And I was like, why did I have to move so much? Because my teammate wasn't listening. But the person next to me was listening. It turned out later on we found out she was the other cop, the one that didn't come forward. The one that did come forward was someone else. And so she was voting with her all the time. And so I tried to use that against her. And so she came out, she accused me. And 2 accusations had already come out from the other cop who came forward, and she voted with her every time. And so I made the argument that a mafia might want to buddy up with the cop and agree with everything they're saying to throw off suspicion from the cop. So once the cop comes forward, and she's in a good enough position to follow through with that. Turned out she was the cop, and I didn't know that for a fact, but I guess it could have been in the back of my mind, and I just didn't think about it. So what happened was somehow my argument was good enough for enough people, and I survived the lynching. And I threw it right back at her. and created enough doubt for not me to make an accusation, but someone else to make an accusation, and someone else seconded it. But even that wasn't enough, and she also survived the lynching. So I'm thinking, we gotta watch out. And she's like, if we go to bed without lynching someone, which I think we wound up doing, she's like, watch, I'm gonna be dead. And I'm thinking, if I was Mafia, I would never do that. And I am Mafia. It would be stupid to do that. But that's a mistake a lot of people make when we're playing that game, was I just came out and I attacked the Mafia, and I know he's Mafia, so he's going to go after me. And so I didn't go after her. And I think that made her kind of be okay with that. So we made it another day, I think, somehow through the day. We wound up eliminating the nurse at this point, I believe. The cop made the accusation because he wasn't the nurse, the person we thought who was the nurse, because he wasn't convinced she was the cop, and so he kept going after her. So she went back at him, and those of us who thought he was the nurse were like, okay, fine. And we kill him, and he's like, I'm a townsperson, and I was like, oh man, he's not the nurse, because we were hoping to get rid of the nurse, and then we could kill the cop, but it wasn't that. And so what then happened was a couple other things. We wound up getting down to 11 people. We thought about this one person who hadn't said anything. He comes forward and says he's the nurse. So then we're using arguments, pretty good arguments, me and one of the other Mafia, coming forward as advocates for the town, and everyone's listening to us. So we're like, the Yakuza strikes, and he winds up picking the person who's sitting next to me, who turned out to be one of the cops. And we silenced the cop so she couldn't come forward and say anything about it. And we killed someone else. I don't remember who it was. And so there was a townsperson with a gun. And there was a cop who couldn't say anything. And so we come up with the idea that we're going to put in doubt in people's minds that the Yakuza probably turned either the cop or the person with the gun. And I'm playing the part of, that wouldn't make sense, because the Mafia wouldn't want to silence someone and then turn them so they can't defend themselves if everyone immediately jumps on the obvious choice of the cop. So everyone's like, alright, so Brenda's not it. But there's still that doubt, maybe she is, but we're not convinced enough. So we start going after the guy with the gun, but we're not going after him in a negative way. We're going after him like on his side, like, what do you think? You could just take a shot, it doesn't matter. And all these little things making him think we're on his side, maybe. So he had too much doubt. He didn't use it. We went to bed. Again, we're coming out on the night. We know we're coming out of the night with the cop not being silenced. The cop knowing that her cop has been turned, and if she investigated one of us, she could say so. But we decided to not take her out because the nurse was probably still saving her. But the nurse had also come forward, so the nurse might save himself. But it was a guessing game, so we decided to just get rid of the guy with the gun. Because we were at 5 to 6. 6 town, 5 Mafia. We kill him, 5 and 5. He had a gun, so he could have flipped the balance if he took a shot. Which he would have been smart to do on that next round. But because we got rid of him, he couldn't do that. And there was no Batman. The gunsmith was taken out right at the beginning. It was with Batman. It was like Batman and the gunsmith both at the same time. So then there were no more guns floating around. We accidentally took out a consigliere, a member of our team. But that was more of a, I didn't want to flail my arms too much. I thought maybe he was. He gave us the signal that he was on our side. Mafia, consigliere, things like that. And so we thought he was, a couple of us did, but the rest were like, he's too vocal, we gotta get rid of him. And so rather than throw attention at myself again by moving around too much, we get rid of him. So it was what it was. He should have been a little more solid about making sure we realized it. And the thing is he's making really strong arguments for the town, which throws suspicion off the town, but it also makes us doubt if he was telling the truth. So he came out a little strong for that, is what ended up happening. Anyway, I'm almost at the end of the thing. Sorry, it's taking a lot longer than I thought it was because I'm going in detail because it just happened and it's only one game, so I'm not getting as confused. But we wound up coming down to 5 to 6. We took him out 5 to 5, and there's no way at that point that the town can win, unless there was a gun or unless some Mafia player doesn't play smart. But we wound up deciding, all right, that's the game. Mafia wins. So we're all like, high five, yeah, we did it. So it was a good game. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't as out there, ridiculous, off the top, kind of what is going on as the last game we played 2 nights ago, where there was a new, never before seen moment when I turned, and Batman went for me at the same time, and it's like, what do we do? And it wound up not mattering because there were two nurses, which threw everything off, and that was a crazy game. But this one was a little more straightforward, and it worked. Everything just fell right into place. And I would have loved to keep playing, but I had to stop. Because now, I've been talking 15 minutes, it's already 1:45. I gotta go to bed. So, good night, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow.